Hello there, my name is Tom Corradini and I am the director and founder of Tom Corradini Teatro. We are a touring company with more than 3 years of experience touring internationally, both in Europe and Asia, specifically in Asia, in China, India, South Korea, Vietnam, Australia as well, and pretty much all over Europe. And this year we're here at the Fringe Festival with 5 shows of ours, and one of them is Caligula. It is a physical theater show in the Lecoq tradition, that is to say, it is spoken about at the same time as strong elements of physical theater. As I said, we tour pretty much all over. This summer we're going to be, among other things, in Portugal, and we're also heavily involved in video production in the last 2 years. As far as Caligula is concerned, you can find the text of the show on Amazon. It is a show with 3 actors on the stage. One of the actors is actually doing the lights and sounds. And he tells the story of the real Emperor Caligula, who all the world knows about. He was a successor of Tiberius in ancient Rome. But the relationship here is between what is happening nowadays in the contemporary world and what happened during the Roman Empire, given the fact that the protagonist of the story is an American. His name is Frank Wilkinson, who has a psychotic attack in Rome and is interned in the psychiatric ward of a hospital. That is an excuse to carry on with the story. And what you see is a parallel between what happened in ancient Rome, as I said, with the Emperor Caligula, and what is happening nowadays with basically the rise of the so-called multipolar world. Pretty much the structure of this world order, which is carried on the back of the American Empire, basically, is slowly crumbling to pieces. And communication, especially in the Western world, is becoming kind of direct in a way through social media, but at the same time, very, very erratic. Now, the show is not linked specifically to the figure of Donald Trump, although one can draw many parallels there, but rather with the internal crisis of the Western world as far as politics is concerned, where communication is becoming direct, completely emotional, and I would say also completely not connected to any idea, but rather to what is happening in the present, following trends, social media algorithm, and so on and so forth. So that was the idea behind the show. The idea came in 2018. I usually develop shows very slowly at the beginning, especially with the fact that all politicians in the Western world, and I'm speaking specifically about the Western world, were using social media in a very aggressive way. We had the rise of the so-called populism in a way. And I said, this is very interesting because in a way it is linked to the history of Caligula, which I know very well. Why is that? Well, because Caligula, in a way, was the very first populist, if you want to say it that way, of history. Given the fact that he was the only Roman emperor who was actually, so to speak, elected by the Senate and who did not have any army whatsoever behind him. Basically, the Roman Senate thought it could transform him into a puppet. The Roman population really wanted to have an emperor in order to contain the power of the Senate, and Rome was going through an amazing period of social and economic transformation from a tiny land space or country, whatever you want to name it, which was basically ruled by free citizens. It was becoming a slave-based empire where you had just a bunch of people controlling incredible masses of lands which were cultivated by slaves. And that's pretty much the social transformation we have nowadays, where we have big technocrats, oligarchs, whatever you want to call them, that actually control an incredible amount of the economy, whereas, especially in the United States, I must say, the population is becoming basically a population of consumers and not of producers. This is a take. It is in a way a contemporary show that has some political content, but that is not linked in particular to a specific person, but rather to what is happening nowadays and the crisis of the West in particular. We do not realize it, or maybe unconsciously, we do feel that what is going on will have an effect on our life. And I'm speaking, of course, about the geopolitical earthquakes that are basically happening nowadays, whether it is the war in Ukraine, the war in Iran, and so on and so forth. But the basis of that is the fact that a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of defining the world is crumbling before our eyes, and it's pretty much like the fall of the Berlin Wall. But whereas in the fall of the Berlin Wall we were outside of the events, right now we're completely immersed and we're inside the events. So following the idea of Emmanuel Todd, who is a French historian, the West is going through an incredible political crisis and economic crisis, and it seems that without giving any names, but I'm sure you can imagine who I'm talking about, and it seems that we're actually ruled by, to say the least, very erratic people. So that's Caligula. You can find the text, as I said, on Amazon. The show is 60 minutes long. 3 actors on the stage: Tom Corradini, Nike Redding, Isabella Gizzi. If you want to know more information about what we do, you can log on our website, www.tomcorradini.it. And before I forget, which is very important, because the show was kind of devised during the period of COVID and has to do with social media communication, within the show, the protagonist, that is to say Frank Wilkinson, this American history professor, he actually delivers a message as Emperor Caligula on social media using his mobile phone. And what we decided to do is every time we actually perform the show, we're gonna stream the message live. It's just a minute and a half, but as an artist, I always experiment, and the idea was to actually experiment and have that part of the show becoming real and projecting outside the boundaries of the theater space. So I think that's important, and I don't know if anybody is doing that, but we're doing it. As a touring company, we tour, as I said, all over. So for further information, please do get in touch. As I said, www.tomcorradini.it. Thank you.